Long before muscle cars ruled the streets, the 1950s saw a wave of American machines that packed serious power and straight-line speed. These factory-stock beasts were built to move, often leaving later muscle legends in their rear view. Number 25. 1958 Lincoln Continental Mark III. The 1958 Lincoln Continental Mark III wasn't just a luxury barge. It was an iron-fisted tank, cloaked in velvet, capable of astonishing straight-line performance that few would expect from a 5,000-pound luxury coupe. Lincoln, seeking to redefine the American luxury experience, outfitted the Mark III with the monstrous 430 cubic inch Mercury Edsel Lincoln V8 engine, a factory beast that delivered 375 horsepower and an earth-moving 490 pound-feet of torque. These figures made it not only the most powerful Lincoln built up to that point, but also one of the most potent American production cars of the entire decade. While the Mark III's scale and grandeur were intimidating, what truly caught enthusiasts off guard was its raw acceleration. Despite its sheer mass, the car could charge from 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 9 seconds, numbers that put it on par with or ahead of many later muscle cars from the 1960s. That acceleration came courtesy of the engine's flat torque curve, which delivered massive grunt at low RPMs and maintained it throughout the power band. On the highway, the Mark III could easily surpass 120 miles per hour, with barely a murmur inside its sound-deadened cabin. The engine wasn't the only bold move Lincoln made in 1958. The Mark III was built on a unique unibody platform, one of the largest ever produced, and featured advanced technology like four-wheel power drum brakes, automatic load leveling, and a sophisticated suspension setup for its time. It rode like a cloud but launched like a jet. You didn't drive a Mark III, you commanded it. The Lincoln Continental Mark III wasn't trying to be a sports car or a dragster, but its overwhelming power, presence, and surprisingly quick acceleration made it more than capable of smoking many later muscle cars. In a world of fins and chrome, it was an opulent bulldozer with the heart of a lion. If raw, factory-stock muscle is the measure, then the 1958 Mark III more than earns its place on this list. Number 24. 1958 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham. The 1958 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham was the undisputed pinnacle of General Motors luxury, but beneath its lavish exterior was a mechanical powerhouse that could outrun and outshine many so-called muscle cars of later decades. Hand-built and limited in production, the Eldorado Brougham was more than just a symbol of wealth. It was a high-performance machine wrapped in polished chrome and stainless steel. At its core was Cadillac's 365 cubic inch V8 engine fitted with the new tri-power carburation system, pushing output to an impressive 335 horsepower, a figure nearly unmatched in luxury cars of the time. What truly made the Eldorado Brougham exceptional was how seamlessly it blended outrageous opulence with serious speed. While it tipped the scales at nearly 5,000 pounds, the combination of high-compression heads, triple two-barrel carburetors, and Cadillac's smooth yet durable automatic transmission meant that this boulevard cruiser could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just under 10 seconds. That kind of straight-line performance in 1958 was astonishing, especially for a car better known for perfume atomizers and built-in cocktail sets. Yet, when the driver put their foot down, the Brougham delivered a wall of torque that could push it down the highway with brutal elegance. The Eldorado Brougham also featured a sophisticated air suspension system that gave it an otherworldly ride quality, yet it was no slouch in handling for its size. On long stretches of road, it maintained composure and speed that embarrassed other luxury cars, and more than a few sports cars, of its era. Every inch of the car, from its brushed stainless steel roof to its suicide doors, screamed prestige, but its mechanical heart beat with the urgency of a muscle machine. In a decade when most automakers separated performance and luxury, the 1958 Cadillac Eldorado Brougham proved that you could have both. It didn't just smoke the competition, it glided past them in absolute silence and supreme comfort. This was Detroit muscle in a tuxedo, and it was magnificent. Number 23. 1958 Edsel Citation. The 1958 Edsel Citation is often remembered for its controversial styling and the commercial failure of the Edsel brand, but few realize that this top-tier model came equipped with factory-stock muscle that could embarrass later icons of the muscle car era. Under its bold, polarizing grille and chrome-laden skin was Ford's powerful 410 cubic inch MEL Mercury Edsel Lincoln V8 engine, rated at a commanding 345 horsepower and an astounding 475 pound-feet of torque. This made the Citation one of the most powerful full-size American cars available that year and an absolute sleeper in terms of raw performance. Despite its image struggles, the Edsel Citation was a mechanical powerhouse. The 410 V8 was paired with Ford's advanced 3-speed automatic transmission, allowing the big Edsel to accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8.5 seconds. That kind of performance was unheard of for a car of its size and class in the late 1950s. In fact, that time placed it firmly ahead of many early 1960s muscle cars and hot rods, making it an underappreciated milestone in American performance history. Edsel engineers also worked to ensure that the Citation delivered a balanced ride. Equipped with heavy-duty suspension and power-assisted brakes, it could manage all that brute force without losing its composure. The car's handling may not have matched smaller competitors, but in a straight line, few dared to challenge it. Add to that a top speed north of 120 miles per hour, and the Citation proved it was no mere design experiment. It had muscle in spades. Though its styling often drew laughter, the 1958 Edsel Citation's performance demanded respect. It was a misunderstood brute, dismissed by many but secretly capable of dusting competitors who underestimated it. In hindsight, the Citation was more than just a failed marketing exercise. It was a luxury-laden torque monster that previewed the muscle car era before it officially arrived. It may not have been cool, but it was undoubtedly quick. Number 22. 1958 Mercury Montclair Super Marauder. In a decade dominated by chrome and fins, the 1958 Mercury Montclair Super Marauder broke through the noise, not just with its bold styling, but with an earth-shaking V8 that delivered performance far ahead of its time. This car wasn't just a luxury cruiser with sporty aspirations, it was a milestone in American automotive engineering. The Super Marauder option made history as the first mass-produced American engine to reach the elusive 1 horsepower per cubic inch ratio straight from the factory. Under the hood was a 430 cubic inch MEL Mercury Edsel Lincoln V8, outfitted with triple 2-barrel carburetors, pushing out a colossal 400 horsepower and 490 pound-feet of torque. That number, 400 horsepower, wasn't a marketing gimmick. It was a real, dyno-tested figure that allowed the Montclair Super Marauder to run with the fastest cars of the day, including the Corvette and Chrysler 300 series. In straight-line performance, this Mercury could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 8 seconds, an astonishing feat for a full-size luxury car in 1958. The torque-rich engine made acceleration effortless, and despite its hefty weight, the Super Marauder moved like a much smaller car when pushed. Mercury engineers didn't just bolt on more carburetors, they reworked the heads, camshaft, and exhaust to support higher RPMs and improve breathing. This wasn't just about going fast, it was about doing it right, and the engineering reflected that. The car came equipped with upgraded suspension, larger brakes, and reinforced driveline components to manage the enormous power. Behind the wheel, it delivered a surprisingly smooth yet ferocious driving experience, especially when the throttle was opened wide. The 1958 Montclair Super Marauder was a limited production powerhouse, and few people at the time truly understood what it represented. It was the muscle car before the term existed, a full-sized, factory-built rocket cloaked in luxury trim. While Mercury would eventually retreat from high performance in favor of mid-tier comfort, this car proved that, for one shining year, they were willing to throw down the gauntlet. And they did it with 400 horses and style to spare. Number 21. 1958 Packard Hawk. The 1958 Packard Hawk was the swan song of a once mighty brand, but it didn't go quietly. It left a trail of burnt rubber and bewildered rivals in its wake. Built on the Studebaker Golden Hawk platform, the Packard Hawk was the fastest accelerating Packard ever produced and one of the quickest American cars of the late 1950s. Beneath its aggressive fiberglass nose and European-inspired grille was a supercharged 289 cubic inch V8 delivering 275 horsepower and a massive 333 pound-feet of torque from the factory. That power plant came courtesy of a McCulloch centrifugal supercharger, force-feeding the small block with compressed air and giving it big block performance in a compact package. Despite weighing over 3,600 pounds, the Packard Hawk could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 7 seconds. Astonishing performance for 1958. It was quicker off the line than many so-called muscle cars that would appear over a decade later. Paired with a Borg-Warner Flight-O-Matic automatic transmission, the car delivered seamless, torque-rich acceleration. On the open road, it could easily top 120 miles per hour, making it a serious contender in any straight-line showdown. The Hawk didn't just perform, it commanded attention. Its design was bold, even polarizing, with a low-slung stance, padded vinyl roof, tail fins, and wide grille that gave it a presence unlike anything else on American roads. Inside, the cockpit was sporty and upscale, with a machine-turned instrument panel and bucket-style front seats, features that would later become standard in true muscle cars. Though only around 588 units were produced, the 1958 Packard Hawk proved that the brand still had engineering muscle left in its final days. It was a high-speed shot across the bow, a reminder that Packard once built some of the most prestigious and advanced cars in America. With blistering acceleration, supercharged performance, and striking design, the Packard Hawk didn't just go out with a whimper, it burned out in glory. For fans of factory-stock muscle, it remains one of the most underrated beasts of the decade. Number 20. 1958 Chevrolet Impala 348 Tri-Power. The 1958 Chevrolet Impala wasn't just a bold new design for a new era, it was Chevrolet's opening shot in the performance wars that would define the next 2 decades. As a brand new nameplate introduced that year, the Impala brought sleek styling, a longer, lower profile, and most importantly, the introduction of big block power into the Chevrolet lineup. At the heart of the performance version was the all-new 348 cubic inch W-Series V8, and when equipped with the factory tri-power setup, 3 two-barrel carburetors, it produced a solid 315 horsepower and 355 pound-feet of torque. This tri-power 348 wasn't just a marketing gimmick, it was Chevrolet's first real foray into factory muscle, and it delivered the goods. With proper gearing and the optional 4-speed manual transmission, the 1958 Impala could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8 seconds, staggering performance for a full-size car with all the luxury appointments of the day. It wasn't just quick in a straight line either. The Impala's new X-frame chassis provided improved handling and rigidity, giving it a surprisingly composed ride at high speed. Chevrolet didn't shy away from offering style with its performance, either. The 1958 Impala featured quad headlights, jet-inspired tail fins, and a distinctive roofline that gave it presence from every angle. Inside, buyers were treated to a 2-tone interior with advanced options like a 6-way power seat, push-button radio, and air suspension, making it a rare blend of speed and sophistication. Though overshadowed in later years by its smaller siblings like the Chevelle SS and Camaro, the 1958 Impala with the Tri-Power 348 was a landmark moment for Chevrolet. It proved that performance didn't need to be confined to bare-bones hot rods. It could come from the factory, wrapped in chrome and comfort. The Impala was the muscle car before the muscle car had a name, and in 1958, it could easily outrun many future legends. Number 19. 1958 Plymouth Fury. The 1958 Plymouth Fury was more than just a striking machine with dramatic tail fins. It was a high-powered force that could take on future muscle cars long before the term was even coined. Designed as the top performance model in Plymouth's lineup, the Fury came standard with a 350 cubic inch Golden Commando V8 engine. With dual 4-barrel carburetors, it cranked out an impressive 305 horsepower and 395 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the most potent factory offerings of the decade. The Fury's light unibody construction and solid power-to-weight ratio allowed it to launch hard off the line. It could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in about 8 seconds, an eye-widening feat for a full-size car of its time. The torque-rich V8 gave it brutal mid-range pull, making highway passing effortless and quarter-mile sprints genuinely competitive. In an era dominated by chrome and comfort, the Fury snuck in true street-fighting performance. But the 1958 Fury was also a visual statement. Its aggressive front grille, sharp tail fins, and gold anodized trim screamed speed and style. Available only in buckskin beige with gold accents, it stood out in any crowd, even before it roared to life. Inside, bucket-style seats and a sporty dashboard hinted at the Fury's serious intentions, offering a driver-focused experience that was rare in most American cars of the period. Plymouth's use of torsion bar front suspension gave the Fury a surprisingly refined ride and confident handling at speed. It was engineered for more than just straight-line sprints. It could handle the curves too, making it a well-rounded performer. Though overshadowed in popular culture by its 1958 film role in Christine, the real Fury's legacy lies in its factory-born muscle. The 1958 Plymouth Fury was an early embodiment of what would later be celebrated in the muscle car era. It didn't need a Hemi badge or a marketing campaign. It simply let its numbers and snarling exhaust do the talking. And in 1958, very few cars could answer back. Number 18. 1957 Dual-Ghia. The 1957 Dual-Ghia was the automotive equivalent of a tailored tuxedo with a concealed switchblade, equal parts elegance and lethal performance. Hand-built in extremely limited numbers, this Italian-bodied, American-powered luxury grand tourer was not just a status symbol for Hollywood's elite, it was a genuine street sleeper capable of embarrassing many future muscle cars. Beneath its refined and coach-built exterior lay a 315-horsepower, 315 cubic inch Dodge D500 Red Ram Hemi V8, a fire-breathing engine typically reserved for performance sedans and NASCAR-bound coupes. Weighing in at around 4,000 pounds, the Dual-Ghia wasn't light, but its torquey Hemi and precise 3-speed automatic transmission enabled it to sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 8 seconds. That kind of acceleration in 1957 placed it squarely in the upper echelon of road-going machines, faster than many European exotics and well ahead of nearly all American luxury cars. Its power delivery was smooth, controlled, and relentless. Exactly what one would expect from a car favored by stars like Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Lucille Ball. The magic of the Dual-Ghia wasn't just its performance figures, it was how effortlessly it blended brute force with bespoke craftsmanship. The bodywork was pinned by Ghia of Turin, with Italian artisans hand-forming each panel and assembling interiors lined in the finest leather and wood trim. But once you stepped on the accelerator, it shed its gentlemanly demeanor and became an American muscle car in formal wear. The Red Ram V8 roared to life with authority, and the wide track and long wheelbase gave it poise on the open highway. Only around 100 units of the 1957 Dual-Ghia were ever produced, making it as rare as it was powerful. While it lacked the aggressive visuals of later muscle cars, its factory-stock performance was more than enough to earn its place on this list. In an era before the term muscle car existed, the Dual-Ghia proved that sophistication and straight-line speed could exist in perfect harmony. Number 17. 1957 Dodge Coronet D501. The 1957 Dodge Coronet D501 was Mopar's secret weapon, an unassuming full-size sedan packing race-bred muscle under its steel skin. Built for one reason and one reason only: performance. The D501 was Dodge's factory answer to the growing demand for high-speed, drag-ready machines. It wasn't a mainstream showroom darling. It was a purpose-built, low-production beast engineered for domination on both the street and the strip. At the heart of the D501 was the same fire-breathing 354 cubic inch Hemi V8 that powered Chrysler's mighty 300B, but tuned for even more aggression. With solid lifters, dual 4-barrel Carter carburetors, and a high-lift camshaft, the engine produced a blistering 340 horsepower, putting it among the most powerful American cars of the era. Factory rated at 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 7 seconds, the Coronet D501 could easily outrun many muscle cars of the 1960s. It was faster than most people realized, and far more dangerous than it looked. To handle all that power, Dodge reinforced the D501's chassis and suspension, borrowing heavy-duty components from the police-spec Pursuit package. Stiffer springs, upgraded shocks, and heavy-duty brakes made sure the car could stay composed while transferring its horsepower to the pavement. Buyers could order a rugged torque-flight automatic transmission or a tough 3-speed manual, either one capable of handling the Hemi's ferocious torque. With minimal chrome and no flashy trim, it was a true sleeper. Clean, bare bones, and all business. Dodge only built around 101 examples of the D501, making it one of the rarest muscle machines of the 1950s. Yet its performance and intent left an oversized mark. It was among the first true factory-built drag racers, a precursor to the superstock legends that would dominate drag strips in the next decade. The 1957 Coronet D501 wasn't about glamour or grand touring, it was about raw, unfiltered speed. In factory trim, it could, and often did, smoke anything that lined up next to it. Number 16. 1957 Chrysler 300C. The 1957 Chrysler 300C wasn't just a car, it was a rolling thunderclap of engineering excellence and unapologetic brute force. As the third entry in Chrysler's legendary letter car series, the 300C took performance and prestige to staggering new heights. With its imposing design, refined interior, and tire-shredding power, it could humble many of the muscle cars that would arrive more than a decade later. Under the hood lay a 392 cubic inch firepower HEMI V8, an engine that was both feared and revered in its time. Equipped with dual 4-barrel carburetors and an aggressive cam profile, the 300C produced a factory-rated 375 horsepower, making it the most powerful American production car of 1957. For those who demanded even more fury, a very limited run of fuel-injected versions pushed that output close to 390 horses. The result was a 2-ton missile that could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 8 seconds, stunningly fast for its era. But the 300C wasn't just about power, it was a complete package. It featured torsion bar front suspension, giving it surprisingly confident handling for such a large car. The massive drum brakes were among the best available at the time, and the TorqueFlite 3-speed automatic transmission delivered crisp, assertive shifts. Even in factory trim, the 300C could cruise at over 130 miles per hour with ease, a speed few cars of any era could match. Visually, the 300C was a masterpiece of late 50s automotive design, wearing a wide, aggressive front fascia, elegant tail fins, and restrained chrome accents. Inside, it offered leather seats, a full suite of luxury features, and a dash layout that screamed jet-age sophistication. Yet beneath that polished exterior was a machine built to dominate the open road. Only around 1,918 units were produced, making the 1957 Chrysler 300C not only rare, but a true collector's dream. In the pantheon of American performance cars, the 300C stands tall, a grand touring coupe with the soul of a street racer. It didn't just predict the muscle car era, it dared it to catch up. Number 15. 1957 AMC Rambler Rebel. The 1957 AMC Rambler Rebel was the car nobody saw coming. A mid-size 4-door sedan with the heart of a muscle car, launched at a time when American Motors was best known for economy and practicality. It was a revolutionary move from the smallest of the big four, and it signaled that performance didn't need to come wrapped in the form of a massive, chrome-laden land yacht. AMC took a lightweight unibody Rambler shell and dropped in their biggest available engine, a bold move that made the Rebel one of the quickest American cars of its time. Under the hood was a 327 cubic inch V8, the first American production use of that now famous displacement, producing a factory-rated 255 horsepower. That might not sound jaw-dropping by later standards, but consider this. The Rebel weighed significantly less than its full-size competitors, giving it an exceptional power-to-weight ratio. Tests from the period recorded 0 to 60 miles per hour runs in as little as 7.5 seconds, blazing fast in 1957. In fact, it could outrun many bigger, more powerful rivals simply because it had less mass to carry. What made the Rebel even more extraordinary was how AMC positioned it. The company didn't market it as a luxury cruiser or a race-bred machine. It was presented as a smart, stylish family sedan that just happened to be faster than most Corvettes of the day. A 4-door that could lay rubber and humble V8 coupes at the stoplight wasn't just rare, it was revolutionary. The Rambler Rebel is considered by many historians to be a spiritual godfather of the muscle car, an intermediate-sized car with a large displacement V8, years before the GTO would define the formula. Only around 1,500 examples were produced, making it a rare sight then and an even rarer classic today. The 1957 Rambler Rebel proved that performance didn't have to be loud, flashy, or expensive. Sometimes it could wear a suit and tie and still punch far above its weight. In factory stock form, it could absolutely smoke many so-called muscle cars that came a decade later. Number 14. 1957 Oldsmobile Super 88 J2. In an era when Detroit was beginning to flirt with performance, the 1957 Oldsmobile Super 88 J2 arrived like a hammer wrapped in silk. It combined the sleek styling and premium trim of the Super 88 with a factory-installed triple carburetor setup known as the J2 Rocket Package, one of the most advanced performance options available in the late 1950s. Oldsmobile was not content to let Cadillac or Chrysler hog the performance spotlight, and the J2 was their bold declaration that power and sophistication could coexist. At the heart of the J2 package was a 371 cubic inch Rocket V8, which featured a trio of Rochester two-barrel carburetors sitting atop a cast aluminum manifold. With the progressive linkage engaged, all 6 barrels would open under wide-open throttle, delivering 300 horsepower and 415 pound-feet of torque. These numbers were staggering in 1957 and translated into serious street performance. The Super 88, despite its size and comfort, could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 9 seconds, putting it in the upper echelon of factory-stock American performance sedans of the decade. What made the J2 Super 88 special wasn't just its power, it was how well that power was delivered. Paired with a 4-speed hydromatic transmission and a chassis tuned for confident highway cruising, the car offered a surprisingly refined driving experience even as it laid down rubber. The J2 package also came with upgraded cooling and drivetrain components, ensuring that the performance wasn't just for show. The exterior design of the 1957 Super 88 was pure jet-age fantasy. Fins, chrome, and sweeping lines gave it the visual drama to match the firepower under the hood. It was a luxury car, a boulevard cruiser, and a street sleeper all in one. And with the J2 option, it could embarrass many two-door muscle cars that would roll off assembly lines 10 years later. Though not widely ordered due to cost and complexity, the 1957 Oldsmobile Super 88 J2 remains a landmark in American performance history. It proved that big, comfortable sedans could also be brutal straight-line machines, and that Oldsmobile wasn't afraid to challenge convention. Number 13. 1957 Pontiac Bonneville. The 1957 Pontiac Bonneville wasn't just a car, it was a declaration that Pontiac was done playing it safe. This limited production convertible was the fastest, most expensive, and most technologically advanced car Pontiac had ever built, signaling a dramatic shift in the division's identity. Gone was the conservative image. In its place stood a rocket on wheels that was as stunning in performance as it was in appearance. At its core was a fuel-injected 347 cubic inch V8, making Pontiac one of the first American automakers to introduce mechanical fuel injection in a production car. With 315 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque, the Bonneville could rocket from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 8 seconds. These were staggering numbers in 1957, putting it ahead of nearly every competitor except the rarest of factory hot rods. The engine was paired with a 4-speed hydromatic automatic transmission, delivering silky shifts and brutal acceleration in equal measure. The Bonneville's performance wasn't just a gimmick, it was a well-engineered assault on the senses. It featured heavy-duty suspension components, power steering, power brakes, and even a limited-slip differential, all designed to ensure the car could handle its formidable output. Though large and luxurious, it never felt sluggish, thanks to the rocket-like thrust of its injection-fed V8. Visually, the 1957 Bonneville was a showstopper. It came in only one body style, a convertible, and every single one was loaded with nearly every option Pontiac offered, including a leather interior, dual exhaust, and an 8-tube radio. The only color combination available was Kenya ivory with Bonneville red accents, adding to its exclusivity. Only 630 units were built, making it not only one of the most powerful Pontiacs of its time, but also one of the rarest. The 1957 Pontiac Bonneville was a preview of the muscle car era before anyone had a name for it. It blended futuristic technology, full-throttle performance, and high-end luxury into one jaw-dropping package. In a straight line, it could easily hold its own against muscle machines that wouldn't appear for nearly another decade. Number 12. 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air Fuelie. The 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air Fuelie is one of the most iconic American cars ever built, not just for its unmistakable style, but for its groundbreaking performance. While the Bel Air was a favorite of families and cruisers alike, the Fuelie version elevated it to factory hot rod status. Fuelie referred to the Rochester mechanical fuel injection system bolted to Chevrolet's 283 cubic inch V8, a revolutionary piece of technology that gave the engine 1 horsepower per cubic inch. That meant 283 horsepower from a 283 engine, an astonishing benchmark for the era and a first in American automotive history. With that much power in a relatively lightweight package, the 1957 Bel Air Fuelie was a legitimate street sleeper. When paired with the close ratio 3-speed manual or optional 4-speed, it could launch from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 7 seconds. Those numbers placed it squarely in sports car territory, an astonishing feat for what was essentially a family car. Even with the optional Powerglide automatic, the Fuelie Bel Air could outrun most of its V8-powered rivals. The magic of the Fuelie wasn't just raw power, it was its smooth and instantaneous throttle response. Unlike carbureted engines that stumbled or bogged under quick acceleration, the fuel-injected 283 responded immediately, delivering torque across the rev range. Chevrolet engineers designed the system for both performance and drivability, making the Bel Air Fuelie one of the most advanced American cars of its day. Visually, the 1957 Bel Air was already a style icon, with its unmistakable tail fins, anodized aluminum trim, and dual hood bullets. But beneath that dazzling facade lurked a car that could take on far more expensive machines. Even on the drag strip, it held its own, regularly beating larger, heavier cars with more displacement. The 1957 Chevrolet Bel Air Fuelie was proof that technology and muscle could coexist. It was not just a symbol of post-war optimism, it was the dawn of Chevrolet's high-performance future. In stock form, it was a genuine threat to anything with wheels, and it remains a benchmark of 1950s American performance. Number 11. 1957 Chevrolet Corvette fuel-injected. In 1957, the Chevrolet Corvette was no longer just a pretty face. It was a true American sports car with real teeth, thanks to its fuel-injected V8 engine. The introduction of Rochester mechanical fuel injection transformed the Corvette into a ferocious performer, capable of leaving much heavier and larger cars in its dust. At the heart of this transformation was the 283 cubic inch small block V8, which, with fuel injection, achieved a groundbreaking 1 horsepower per cubic inch, FSS, 283 horsepower in total. This was a bold engineering milestone, signaling Chevrolet's commitment to performance excellence. While the Corvette had been evolving since its debut in 1953, the 1957 model was a revolution. Not only did it get the new fuel-injected engine, but it also offered options like a 4-speed manual transmission, positive traction limited-slip differential, and heavy-duty brakes and suspension. The result was a machine that could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 6 seconds. Outrageous performance for the time, and enough to embarrass even many later muscle cars. Lightweight fiberglass body panels meant it didn't need brute force to deliver blistering acceleration. Beyond straight-line speed, the Corvette finally began to earn its place among world-class sports cars in handling and braking. Chevrolet engineered it with better weight distribution and more refined chassis tuning, giving it the composure to hang in the corners as well. Drivers who opted for the racing spec RPO 684 package got stiffer suspension and metallic brakes, turning the Corvette into a street-legal track car. Visually, the 1957 Corvette maintained its classic curves but gained more aggressive styling cues, including scallop side coves and a wider grille. It still looked elegant, but now it had the brawn to back up its beauty. With fewer than 2,000 units equipped with fuel injection that year, the Fuelie Corvette became a legend in both engineering and exclusivity. The 1957 Chevrolet Corvette Fuelie wasn't just a fast car, it was a turning point in American automotive history. It proved that advanced technology and raw performance could exist in harmony, and it laid the foundation for every Corvette and many muscle cars that followed. Number 10. 1957 Ford Fairlane 500 Supercharged. The 1957 Ford Fairlane 500 with the supercharged option was a powerhouse disguised as a family sedan. At a time when muscle cars were still a concept in the minds of engineers, this full-size Ford offered an incredible blend of size, style, and straight-line speed. Powered by a 312 cubic inch V8 equipped with a Paxton supercharger, the Fairlane 500 supercharged model produced an impressive 300 horsepower straight from the factory. This put it in direct competition with much more expensive and exotic performance cars of the era. The Supercharger was a centrifugal type, driven by a belt connected to the engine, which forced extra air into the combustion chambers to dramatically increase power output. This boost in power meant that the Fairlane 500 could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in just over 8 seconds, a remarkable feat for a car of its size and weight. The torque produced made it particularly effective in street and strip performance, allowing quick launches and effortless overtakes. In fact, this supercharged V8 made the 1957 Fairlane 500 one of the quickest American cars available that year. Beyond the powertrain, the Fairlane 500 featured Ford's latest design language with jet-inspired tail fins, chrome accents, and a sleek two-tone paint scheme that made it stand out on the boulevard. Inside, the car offered upgraded trim and bucket seats in some models, blending comfort with a hint of sportiness. Ford's Torque Flight, automatic or a manual transmission were available, allowing buyers to choose their preferred driving experience. The 1957 Fairlane 500 Supercharged was more than just a statement of power. It was an early precursor to muscle car philosophy, showing that mass-produced cars could deliver serious performance without sacrificing style or daily usability. Although the supercharged option was relatively rare, the Fairlane 500's blend of technology and performance gave it an edge few competitors could match. It could easily outpace many vehicles that would later be labeled as muscle cars. This supercharged Ford was a bridge between the traditional V8 cruisers of the 50s and the muscle car revolution that was just around the corner. It proved that American muscle was already building momentum in 1957, and Ford was leading the charge. Number 9. 1957 Ford Thunderbird F-Code. The 1957 Ford Thunderbird F-Code was an all-out performance machine disguised in luxury coupe clothing. While the Thunderbird originally debuted in 1955 as a personal luxury car, by 1957 it had evolved into something far more potent, particularly in its F-Code trim. At the heart of this rare and menacing bird was a 312 cubic inch V8 equipped with a Paxton McCulloch VR57 centrifugal supercharger. This force-fed engine churned out a factory-rated 300 horsepower, although many experts believe the real number was even higher. Ford engineers didn't simply bolt on a supercharger and call it a day. The F-Code Thunderbirds featured upgraded internals like forged pistons, a higher lift camshaft, and a beefier Holley 4-barrel carburetor tuned specifically to work with the pressurized intake system. The result was explosive, straight-line performance that could take the Thunderbird from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 7 seconds. In the context of the 1950s, this was nothing short of outrageous for a car dripping in chrome and leather. Only 212 F-Code Thunderbirds were ever built, making them not only one of the most powerful Thunderbirds of the decade, but also one of the rarest. This limited production was partly due to the model's high cost and its specialty nature. This was a car aimed squarely at the performance enthusiast who didn't want to compromise on style. The F-Code option was available only in the final year of the first-generation Thunderbird, which also featured updated body styling with longer tail fins, a more prominent front bumper, and revised grille. Driving an F-Code Thunderbird wasn't just about speed, it was about doing so with grace. Despite the brutal performance under the hood, the car maintained its composure with plush seating, power windows, and a dashboard that looked like it belonged in an aircraft cockpit. It straddled the line between high society and high performance like no other American car of the era. The 1957 Ford Thunderbird F-Code was a statement that raw muscle and refined design could coexist. It remains one of the greatest sleeper performance cars of the 50s, one that could easily smoke many of the muscle cars that came a decade later. Number 8. 1956 Dodge D500. The 1956 Dodge D500 was Detroit's first real taste of NASCAR-bred performance trickling down to the street. At a time when most family cars barely crept past the 200 horsepower mark, Dodge engineers decided to inject some adrenaline into the full-size lineup with this limited production hot rod. It wasn't just a trim package, the D500 was a legitimate performance machine with credentials to match. Under the hood sat a fire-breathing 315 cubic inch Super Red Ram HEMI V8. With high-compression pistons, solid lifters, and a Carter 4-barrel carburetor, this power plant cranked out a robust 260 horsepower and 340 pound-feet of torque. That gave the D500 a power-to-weight ratio that embarrassed many so-called performance cars of the era. In stock form, it could sprint from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 8 seconds, an impressive feat for a big-bodied sedan in 1956. But the D500 wasn't just about brute force. Dodge upgraded nearly every component critical to high-speed performance. It featured heavy-duty suspension with stiffer springs and shocks, along with larger brakes to handle the increased speed and power. Buyers could even order it with a 3-speed manual or a 2-speed PowerFlight automatic transmission. The car was available in a range of body styles, including coupe, hardtop, and even convertible, giving it broad appeal. What really set the D500 apart was its racing pedigree. The car was engineered to meet NASCAR homologation requirements, meaning its performance upgrades weren't just for show, they were battle-tested on the track. It quickly proved its worth in stock car racing, establishing Dodge as a serious contender against the likes of Ford and Chevrolet. The D500 was also successful in the mobile gas economy run, showcasing its balance between power and efficiency. The 1956 Dodge D500 marked the beginning of Dodge's muscle-bound legacy. It was bold, brash, and unapologetically fast, qualities that would become synonymous with the brand in the years to follow. For anyone lucky enough to get behind the wheel, it was clear. This was no ordinary family sedan. It was a fire-spitting, factory-stock muscle killer in disguise. Number 7. 1956 Packard Caribbean. The 1956 Packard Caribbean was a flamboyant statement of power and prestige, built at the twilight of one of America's most storied luxury automakers. As Packard's flagship, the Caribbean wasn't just a boulevard cruiser, it was a technological marvel that packed enough underhood muscle to outrun many of the muscle cars that would follow in later decades. This final-year version of the Caribbean was outfitted with Packard's largest and most powerful engine ever installed in a production model. At the heart of the Caribbean roared a 374 cubic inch V8 engine topped with dual 4-barrel carburetors. It produced a commanding 310 horsepower and a hefty 405 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the most powerful American cars available in 1956. That kind of power gave the massive Caribbean impressive acceleration for its size, rocketing from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 10 seconds. No small feat for a luxury convertible weighing over 2 tons. More importantly, it delivered that performance with silky smoothness, thanks in part to the refined twin Ultramatic push-button automatic transmission. In addition to brute force, the Caribbean offered sophisticated engineering touches that put it ahead of its time. It featured Packard's torsion-level suspension system, a fully automatic, self-leveling torsion bar setup that delivered remarkably smooth handling over rough roads. This made it not only powerful but also one of the most comfortable high-speed cruisers of its era. Every Caribbean was also fully loaded with luxury features, including power steering, power brakes, power windows, power seats, and even reversible seat upholstery. Visually, the Caribbean stood apart with its bold tri-tone paint schemes, layered chrome accents, and a dramatic jet-age aesthetic. It looked every bit as fast and futuristic as it drove. But despite its performance and polish, only 554 units were built in 1956, making it as rare as it was powerful. The 1956 Packard Caribbean was the swan song of a legendary brand, going out in a blaze of high-octane glory. In terms of factory stock, straight-line muscle, it had the guts to go toe-to-toe with many of the muscle machines that wouldn't arrive until years later. Number 6. 1956 DeSoto Adventurer. The 1956 DeSoto Adventurer was more than just a special edition offering. It was a performance statement wrapped in mid-century American flash. Introduced as a limited production halo car, the Adventurer marked a new chapter for DeSoto, showcasing the division's ability to blend brute power with elegance. At a time when many performance cars were just starting to find their legs, the Adventurer came out of the gate with horsepower figures that put it among the most potent, factory-built machines of its decade. Under the hood sat a 341 cubic inch Hemi V8, exclusive to the Adventurer. This engine featured dual 4-barrel carburetors and cranked out an astonishing 320 horsepower, an impressive figure for 1956. With this setup, the Adventurer could surge from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 9 seconds, a time that was blistering for the mid-50s. It could cruise all day at high speeds, making it a legitimate threat to any early muscle car that might try to challenge it on the strip or highway. What made the DeSoto Adventurer stand out even further was its attention to detail and exclusivity. Every example was painted in a striking combination of white and gold, complete with gold anodized trim that emphasized its special status. The interiors were just as upscale, with color-keyed upholstery, full instrumentation, and performance-oriented enhancements like heavy-duty suspension components and dual exhausts. This wasn't just a flashy cruiser, it was purpose-built for enthusiasts who wanted to go fast in style. The Adventurer's high-compression Hemi engine, mated to Chrysler's PowerFlight automatic transmission, provided seamless thrust and confident passing power. Even by today's standards, its torque delivery and acceleration are highly respectable. With a production run limited to only 996 units, the 1956 Adventurer is both a rarity and a gem from a performance standpoint. The 1956 DeSoto Adventurer proved that brute force didn't have to come from a stripped-down street brawler. It was a refined, luxurious missile built to smoke the tires off lesser cars, all while the passengers sat comfortably, ensconced in leather and chrome. Number 5. 1956 Studebaker Golden Hawk. The 1956 Studebaker Golden Hawk was a bold and unconventional performance car that defied the expectations of its time. With an aggressive design and a powertrain that borrowed from luxury car royalty, the Golden Hawk was a true hot rod in a tailored suit. It marked Studebaker's attempt to inject serious muscle into their lineup, and they succeeded in doing so with flair. Beneath its long, sculpted hood sat a massive 352 cubic inch Packard V8 engine, a power plant more commonly found in Packard's premium models. This engine cranked out a remarkable 275 horsepower, which was staggering by mid-50s standards. In fact, the Golden Hawk offered one of the best power-to-weight ratios of any American production car in 1956. At a curb weight of just over 3,500 pounds, it could surge from 0 to 60 miles per hour in roughly 8 seconds, placing it in rare company for its era. Unlike many of its Detroit competitors that leaned heavily on size and chrome, the Golden Hawk combined its muscle with relatively compact dimensions and tidy proportions. This made it surprisingly nimble, while its tail fins and distinctive grille gave it a menacing, upscale look. Inside, it was tastefully appointed with a sporty yet refined interior, complete with full gauges, two-tone trim, and high-quality materials that belied Studebaker's modest market reputation. One of the most compelling aspects of the Golden Hawk was how it brought big car performance to a smaller, more affordable platform. It didn't just look fast, it was fast, often outperforming much larger and more expensive vehicles in drag races and top speed runs. Contemporary road tests revealed that it could hold its own against the likes of Chrysler 300s and even some Corvettes of the day. In the world of mid-century American performance, the 1956 Studebaker Golden Hawk was a fearless underdog. It packed Packard power, sleek styling, and thrilling acceleration into a package that made no apologies for being different. In a time before the term muscle car even existed, the Golden Hawk was already walking the walk. Number 4. 1954 Buick Century. In 1954, Buick introduced a car that quietly packed the punch of a prizefighter, the Buick Century. At a glance, the Century looked like a refined cruiser designed for comfortable motoring, but under the hood, it concealed one of the most potent factory setups available at the time. Buick's formula for the Century was simple but brilliant. Take the lightweight body of their Special Series and pair it with the most powerful engine available from their larger Roadmaster line. The result was a factory-built street sleeper capable of delivering staggering acceleration for its era. The 1954 Century came equipped with a 322 cubic inch nailhead V8 engine, producing an impressive 200 horsepower, an enormous figure in the early 50s. That was enough to send this relatively lightweight full-size sedan from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 10 seconds, a time that rivaled or beat many of the so-called muscle cars of the late 60s. While most automakers of the time prioritized luxury or style over raw speed, Buick saw an opening for something different. The Century offered a refined interior with stylish dashboard accents, full instrumentation, and a smooth Dynaflow automatic transmission, but what really set it apart was how it responded when you put your foot down. The torque-rich V8 delivered swift, seamless power, and the short final gearing meant the car leapt off the line with surprising urgency. The Century also had the handling to match, with upgraded suspension and larger brakes borrowed from the heavier models in Buick's lineup. It was often referred to as the banker's hot rod because it delivered high performance without flashy design cues. That made it an ideal car for those who wanted performance without sacrificing comfort or reputation. In a decade where speed wasn't always the primary goal, the 1954 Buick Century stood out as a genuine performance car hiding in plain sight. It was one of the earliest examples of Detroit's emerging obsession with putting power into unexpected places, and in doing so, it helped set the template for muscle cars to come. Number 3. 1953 Cunningham C-3. The 1953 Cunningham C-3 wasn't just an American car, it was a handcrafted fusion of raw V8 power and European grand touring elegance. Born from the dreams of Briggs Swift Cunningham, a wealthy sportsman and racing enthusiast determined to build an American car that could win at Le Mans, the C-3 was the road-going version of his championship-bred racers. With its sleek Italian styling by Vignale and brute force Chrysler Hemi engine, it stood as one of the most exotic and powerful machines of its decade. Underneath the hand-formed body panels of the C-3 resided a 331 cubic inch Chrysler Firepower Hemi V8, producing 220 horsepower in stock form. That figure might sound modest by later muscle car standards, but paired with the car's relatively light curb weight, it was more than enough to launch the C-3 from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 9 seconds, a number that would embarrass many muscle cars of the late 60s. The Hemi's broad torque curve and responsive throttle gave the Cunningham effortless acceleration, making it feel more like a race car in a tailored suit. The chassis was custom-built and featured a tubular frame with independent front suspension and a rear live axle, tuned for both road manners and spirited driving. Despite being hand-built and rare, the C-3 was engineered with precision and performance in mind. It used a 3-speed manual transmission with overdrive, ensuring it could cruise comfortably at high speeds while maintaining incredible acceleration at lower speeds. Cunningham only produced around 30 C-3s, making it one of the rarest and most exclusive American cars of the 50s. But what it lacked in production numbers, it more than made up for in performance. The car could easily keep pace with or outrun many sports cars of the era, and its refined European styling hid the heart of a brute. The 1953 Cunningham C-3 wasn't just a luxury grand tourer, it was a machine built with one eye on the racetrack and the other on the Autobahn. In many ways, it foreshadowed the muscle and supercar movements decades before they had even taken shape. Number 2. 1951 Chrysler Saratoga Club Coupe Hemi. In 1951, the Chrysler Saratoga Club Coupe emerged as a quiet assassin on American roads, an unassuming powerhouse that introduced the revolutionary Hemi V8 to the masses. With its conservative styling and upscale yet understated looks, few would guess that this full-size coupe harbored a technological marvel beneath its hood. It was the very first production car to feature Chrysler's legendary firepower Hemi V8, a hemispherical combustion chamber engine that would go on to define performance for decades. The heart of the Saratoga was its 331 cubic inch Hemi V8, generating 180 horsepower at a time when most family sedans struggled to breach 100. The hemispherical head design allowed for more efficient airflow and combustion, resulting in smoother power delivery and a high-revving nature rarely seen in American cars of that era. Paired with a fluid-drive semi-automatic transmission, the Saratoga was capable of rocketing from 0 to 60 miles per hour in around 12 seconds, a blistering pace for a car of its size and time. Its performance was more than just impressive on paper, it proved its merit on the racetrack as well. A near-stock Saratoga placed third overall at the grueling 24 Hours of Le Mans in 1951, behind only two much lighter and purpose-built Jaguar C-types. That feat alone cemented its legacy as a sleeper performance icon. The Saratoga also featured advanced engineering beyond the engine bay, including a strong X-frame chassis, independent front suspension, and hydraulic drum brakes that provided solid handling and stopping power. It wasn't a sports car by appearance, but in the hands of a skilled driver, it could outrun many smaller and flashier competitors. In a decade known more for chrome and comfort than raw speed, the 1951 Chrysler Saratoga Club Coupe stood apart. It ushered in the Hemi era with authority and quietly laid the groundwork for future performance machines. Long before the muscle car wars began, this car was already winning battles. Number 1. 1951 Hudson Hornet. In 1951, the Hudson Hornet debuted as a force to be reckoned with, redefining what a full-sized American car could achieve on the road and racetrack. Built on Hudson's innovative step-down chassis design, the Hornet featured a lower center of gravity that gave it unmatched stability and handling for its time. Though it lacked a V8 under the hood, the Hornet's straight-six engine packed a serious punch and turned this elegant sedan into a racing legend. At the heart of the Hornet was Hudson's 308 cubic inch inline-six engine, the largest six-cylinder engine in production at the time. In stock form, it delivered 145 horsepower, but with the addition of the twin H-Power option introduced shortly after, that figure jumped to 160 horsepower. This dual carburetor setup gave the car startling acceleration for a full-size sedan, allowing it to outgun many early V8-equipped competitors in quarter-mile runs. The Hornet didn't just boast numbers, it backed them up with a dominating presence in NASCAR and other stock car circuits. Driven by legends like Marshall Teague and Herb Thomas, the Hudson Hornet won 30 of 41 NASCAR races in 1952 and continued to dominate well into the middle of the decade. Its combination of power, handling, and durability made it the car to beat on dirt tracks and paved ovals alike. Despite being marketed as a luxury family sedan, the Hornet was incredibly agile thanks to its low-slung frame and wide stance. The step-down design allowed passengers to sit within the frame rails rather than on top, which drastically lowered the car's profile and improved cornering stability. It offered a comfortable ride, but when pushed, it became a fierce performer that could embarrass sportier and flashier cars with ease. The 1951 Hudson Hornet wasn't just a car, it was a phenomenon. It proved that raw performance didn't need a V8 badge or muscle car bravado. With engineering ahead of its time and a racing pedigree unmatched in its era, the Hornet earned its place as a true American performance legend.